Sir Keir Starmer has told his front bench to be ready for a spring general election.
The Labour leader reportedly wants to finalise a manifesto in February in anticipation of the country going to the polls in May.
Well, as I say, joining us now is TalkTV's political correspondent, Alicia Fitzgerald. Alicia, this is all over the papers today, so it's quite a win for the Labour Party. They're getting out there, they're getting their message across, they're saying we're ready. But does it ring true to you, the idea that the whole Labour Party is now convinced there's going to be a spring election?
Well, there's two things here. On one side, it's Labour really want it to happen in May. You know, strike while the iron's hot. They're doing really well in the public opinion polls. They just seem to be far more popular than the Conservatives at the moment. So why not get in and do it now whilst it stays that way? The Conservatives, on the other hand, they have a bit more of a risky decision to make. They wait till autumn, potentially, and they either risk improving their public opinion or actually making it worse and damaging it further. So everyone's a bit unsure exactly what is going to happen, but I think generally the spirit is that most people in Parliament want an election sooner rather than later, that's for sure.
Releasing a manifesto in February, does this give Labour a chance to tell the voters these are reasons why you should vote for us, rather than at the moment the feeling is anyone but the Tories?
This is it. So I think for a long time, Labour have just been able to ride off the back of consistent Conservative Party failures. They've been able to just say, we will be better than what is currently happening. And that just isn't going to ride or run for that much longer. The public will really want to see some concrete decisions made and some concrete promises. How will things be funded? What is the plan? When will the plan be executed by? And at the moment, we haven't had an awful lot of that. We've had a few hints here and there, but we haven't had lots of concrete plans. So Labour's task in the new year, regardless of when the election is, if it's in May, if it's in autumn, whenever, they'll need to really just kind of hammer home exactly what their plan is so that more of the public trust them.
But actually, on that question, Lisa, which you were just saying, how will this be funded? Interesting that in some of the sort of small print of what they're saying to what the Labour Party is saying today is that because they feel they have to almost rush through their manifesto and tell us what's going to be in it, they don't think they've got time to do a proper spending review, a proper shadow spending review. So in some ways, those questions of how are they going to fund it, they found another way of avoiding answering that question.
Definitely, and this is always Labour's stumbling block, if you like, of the run-up to every single election. Lots of people still just don't feel safe in the hands of Labour with their finances. They feel like there's just a magic money tree. That was a phrase that was thrown around a lot in the 2019 general election. People do feel a bit more faith in Starmer and Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor. They feel they're a bit more competent and a bit more rigid with the way that they use their finances. But even so, we just need exactly concrete details, and the public will really be demanding that as we get closer and closer to the election.
So one of the biggest criticisms I hear about Starmer is that he is essentially just a diet version of the Tory party. Is there a risk that with this manifesto they could be drawn even closer together?
Lots of people do criticise him for that, but if we look at the polls, he's still doing really, really well. He's still pretty popular. Of course, that doesn't mean he's going to win everyone over. There are lots of people towards the left of his party who were strong supporters of Jeremy Corbyn, his predecessor, for example, who feel like Starmer just doesn't really match up with their views and their ideology. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to win the next election. I mean, everything is pointing to the fact that he will. Obviously, we can't predict it exactly. Crazier things have happened in politics. But yeah, it does look pretty good for him, regardless of the decisions he makes in the next few months.
And of course, we don't know when the general election is going to be, but we do know when the local elections are going to be. And we do know that there's at least one by-election a few weeks away and possibly two by-elections. What sort of impact will those elections make on the decision-making at number 10? So
local elections are on the 2nd of May, and these are elections for councillors, mayors, all the local politicians in your area that aren't your actual MP. And the Conservatives are not set to do super well in those. We look at the results from the recent by-elections. They had a bit of a battering over the past year in the various ones that have cropped up. So the question is, will they wait for those, potentially do really badly then, and then call an election just in the wake of those potential losses? It's not going to be the best look. Or do they just wait and hope that maybe it turns around? So all of this does have a massive impact. It feeds into public opinion and it makes people feel like the party aren't so strong.
And Alicia, the other vote that we know is coming is a parliamentary vote in the House of Commons on the Rwanda bill. That, I guess, could also have an impact on the thought processes going on in Downing Street.
I'm sure everyone is so fed up of hearing about this Rwanda scheme. It started with Boris Johnson and Priti Patel, and it has dragged on and on and on, and we still have had no flights to Rwanda. But as you say, it comes back in January. Sunak kind of managed to keep everyone on side just about and get it through that first vote, but there's still various votes to go. It hasn't even got to the House of Lords yet, where it gets scrutinised even further. So he's definitely not out of the woods with that one.
So listen, Alicia, if you were advising Labour, right?
Oh, lucky Alicia.
I wouldn't want that job.
Are you going to put Starmer out, Mr. Robot, to deliver the manifesto, or are you going to rely on the shadow cabinet, Rachel Reeves and Wes Street, people who have the real charisma?
Well, they've got some really popular members who are often out in doing the media stuff. That's Peter Kyle. He's really popular amongst people. He's very good at talking in media and getting the message out. People like Wes Streeting, Darren Jones, all of these big Labour figures, the rising stars of the Labour Party, if you like. They're ones that people just generally seem to think are a bit more affable to the public. Keir Starmer, as you say, does get a lot of criticism for being a bit robotic in the same way that maybe Rishi Sunak does. Both of them seen as very serious people. I think lots of the public feel that they can't relate to. So definitely going forward, it'll be really important to make sure you get some of the poster boys and girls of the Labour Party out and spreading the message.
I'm going to ask you a really unkind question
no.
now. When do you, if you were a betting woman, when would you bet the election would be?
I think everyone is ready for May. Everyone would like it to be May just because there's been so much turbulence recently on both sides. And I don't just mean with the government, I just mean in politics more generally. I think people just want to see a bit of a shift and a bit of a change. Wherever that goes, it doesn't really matter. I think people are definitely gearing up to it. But Rishi Sunak is a very proud man, and he's not someone who often admits defeat or admits that things aren't going very well for him. So I do think that we can't rule out that autumn election in the hopes that he'll say we can still pull it back over the summer.
So are you ruling out this time next year, January 2025?
I'd say so, and that is mainly because, and we've spoken about this before, but Rishi Sunak used his Downing Street drinks with journalists to say that next year will be an election year, and normally doesn't drop many bombs in these kind of settings, but that was a bit of a one that we assumed meant that it wasn't going to be in January 2025.
I don't think the Tories stand much of a chance regardless, but it would seem like political suicide to wait till autumn. So you have summer when the boat crossings are going to go through the roof, and then Labour can say, Tories have failed us again.
This is it. It's a really interesting thing about when elections are normally timed, and why is it May and why is it autumn? Why are those the two options? Well, so summer, they're historically not really popular because loads of people are away, lots of people wouldn't be able to vote. It's just summer is a lot of times where people are kind of choppy and changing. Winter isn't great for optics. It's not great for campaigning. It's raining. It's miserable. NHS is usually doing a lot worse, and that is, of course, one of Rishi Sunak's big 5 pledges. So he'll probably want to try and avoid another bad winter, which kind of proves that they haven't succeeded in that goal. So it's definitely always usually one of the transitional months out of the year.
Yeah, no easy decisions there. I think stuck between a rock and a hard place springs to mind for number 10. Alicia, thank you very, very much.